Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Organizing Untold. I'm your host, Sierra Hamilton, and we have another guest joining us today. Before we get into today's episode, I did want to mention that in the description box, there are some organizing resources that you'll have access to, along with today's guest, her information, her bio, and ways that you can be able to stay connected with her after today's episode. So make sure you check that information out in the description box. It'll either be below or above, depending on what platform you're watching this from. But check that out and let's get started. So today, and even just in the month of March, I've been bringing on organizers to be able to talk more about their journey in honor of International Women's Month. And so today for our episode, we have Allison Rothwell, who's joining in as our guest. Welcome, Allison. Thank you for joining us
Thank
today.
you. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
Yes, you're welcome. And I agree. I agree. If you could just introduce yourself and let us know who you are and what you do.
Sure. So, my name is Allison. I am a wife and a mom of two young boys. I work part time as an administrative assistant for an accounting firm. And then in my spare time, um, I help people declutter and get organized. I also do a little bit of acting on the side too, when there's time for that. There's not much time for that. But yeah, I love to help, especially other moms who have young kids clear out the clutter and bring some more calmness into their lives because motherhood, especially of young children, can be crazy. So that's what I do.
Yeah, I understand that. Thank you for taking the time to introduce yourself and just give us more of a description and bio of who you
Mhm.
are. And when you think about organizing, what would you say like a definition of organizing is for you?
Um, I think that being organized is having everything in your home and your life kind of in control. Having everything in a certain order where you feel comfortable with it, where you don't feel overwhelmed. Everybody has a different clutter threshold. So the amount of things that you can handle without feeling overwhelmed um, is your clutter threshold. So I might be able to handle more things than say you can in your home without feeling overwhelmed. We could have the same amount of things and I could feel like it's a complete disaster and you could feel like it's a really calm, organized space. So every person is so different. So you just have to find your clutter threshold and how many things you can handle and manage in your home where you do not feel overwhelmed.
Yeah,
I
I
hope that
do.
makes sense.
And it does, it does. And just bringing it even back to like your home and your life. I know you mentioned that you work part time for an accounting firm,
Mhm.
and also you mentioned that you do acting as well. Sometimes you have time for that. So how do you feel like? And also you're a wife and a mom of two boys.
Yep.
So how do you feel like that all relates for you in your home, in your life, and those different areas?
I do so many different things outside of the house that if my home isn't organized and tidy in the way that I like it, I feel anxious and I feel crazed because my life has so many different moving pieces. I'm either in the office 3 days a week, or I'm doing an acting job on set somewhere, or I'm doing a declutter job with a client, or I'm just home being like a mom. My boys are 5 and 7. If my house isn't tidy and organized to the way that I need it to be, I feel very overwhelmed. I just do so many different things in my life right now. We also have 4 pets. We have 2 dogs and 2 cats. So our house can be very loud and very chaotic.
Yeah.
And I feel much better getting through my day if everything is put away and in its place and where it needs to be. Um, Not everybody feels the same. My husband might not notice if there's things out on the counter. To
Mhm.
me, I see it and it like creates this anxiety in me and I just need to put it away.
Yeah.
It's the only way I can keep everything kind of flowing where my life is so busy.
Yeah, yeah. That definitely makes sense. And going back to your point of like your husband may not always see that it's on the counter, how do you feel like you navigate that? Do you usually like bring it up and be like, "Hey, can we take more notice of this in a sense?" Or is it something that like you all incorporating as a family, or is it mostly on you? Do you feel?
So with my husband, because he's a grown adult, I'm not gonna tell him what to do. He
Yeah.
knows that it bothers me when things are kind of like left out. It's just easier for me if I see something left out to just kind of put it away. With
Yeah.
my children, though, I'm trying to teach them the ways of being organized, from here growing up into their adult lives.
Yeah.
So I will often remind them, hey, we need to put our shoes, on the boot tray or in the closet rather than in the middle of the living room, or we need to put this toy away when we're done playing with it.
Yes.
But I mean, there are definitely days where it's just easier for me to just do it. If we're
Yeah.
rushing or, if the kids have already gone to bed and they've left something out, it's usually me at the end of the day who I'm the one who wants it all neat and orderly and tidy. So
Yeah.
a lot of times I'm just kind of picking up after them. But
Mhm.
during the day when the kids are awake, I really do try to make it a point to teach them so that they can hopefully carry these skills into their adulthood.
Love it. Love it. And do you already see like it's something that they are starting to pick up on without you having to tell them?
My 7-year-old is better with the whole decluttering thing, I think, than my 5-year-old. If he gets a new toy for Christmas, for Hanukkah, for his birthday or whatever, he knows he has to find another toy in the basement to donate. So it's
Oh,
always one in, one out. He knows if he gets something new, he's got to find something that needs to leave. My
yeah.
5-year-old doesn't really have that concept grasped as well yet,
Yeah.
but he's pretty good about it when I like bring it up and I might say like, pick some toys that you're no longer playing with to make room for these new toys that came into the house. And so
Mm.
it's definitely a work in progress. They're still young, they're kids. They like to make messes with their toys. Um, and like I said, my 7-year-old is probably a little bit better with the whole tidying up thing than my 5-year-old, but that makes sense because he's 2 years older and he's had 2 more years of listening to mom complain about things being left out. Um, and also, like, I talk about decluttering a lot because I'm passionate about it. So in my everyday life, I listen to podcasts about decluttering. I watch YouTube videos. I read books. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of all consuming in my life, and it kind of has rubbed off on the kids a little bit too. So I think they're definitely headed in the right direction.
Nice, nice, nice. I love that. And it's good that like even just the one in, one out in terms of toys, that's a in a sense a method, an organizing tip that you're incorporating and that you're helping to instill in them because as just of course people of society sometimes we can have this um, tactic of over consuming too
Mhm.
much, and that's kind of what in a sense leads us down the line towards having too much of anything and too many things and this buildup of clutter in a sense. And so to just know that that's something that they're learning, it's like I feel like it's a good route that you're taking.
Well, because I don't think that I really learned it myself as a child. When I
Yeah.
look back at photos of like my high school bedroom, I'm like, oh my God, it was so cluttered. I don't know how I lived like that. Obviously, I
Yeah.
didn't care because I don't know, I didn't clean it up and it was fine, but I had a lot of stuff. Those
Yeah.
pictures now, I look at them and I'm like so anxious. Um, there just was no room. Even the walls were just covered with posters and pictures and whatever. And
Yeah.
now as an adult, I'm like, okay, less is more, right? Back then, it was just like, give me all the stuff, give me all the posters, give me all the clothes, the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think everybody kind of goes through their own journey with
Mm,
the overconsumption of stuff and the buying. I mean, I have days where if I'm in a bad mood sometimes,
mm.
buying something's gonna make me feel better, you know? Um,
Yes.
and I've kind of like taught myself this trick where if I'm really in a mood where I'm not feeling great and I just feel like shopping, I'll
Mhm.
go onto Amazon, I'll add something to my cart, and then I'll walk away.
Mm.
Because I think just the act of hitting some, add to cart gives you that little hit of dopamine, without actually hitting submit, process, payment, whatever. and I'll give it 24 hours. And if 24 hours later, that item in my cart is still something that's speaking to me that I really want, okay, then I might allow myself to buy it. But 9 times out of 10, I'm like, what? I didn't even want this. Like, it was just going to be like, I needed to feel better in that moment. And
Yeah.
buying something was going to make me feel better. So I've
Yeah.
struggled with overconsumption of stuff, you know, for a very long time.
Yeah.
It's just something as an adult I've kind of gotten a handle on, and I'm still a work in process. I mean, I still have some days where I don't, press pause and I might buy something, and then
Yeah.
I'm like, well, now I'm gonna have to return that because I didn't really want.
Yeah. No, that happens. And thank you for mentioning that point because, of course, as humans, we're not perfect. And even though we're trying these different things and we're incorporating these different principles into our lives and trying to do things differently and change our habits and things of that nature, sometimes we do still slip up. And sometimes, even when it comes to organizing and wanting to have a clean and clear space, sometimes it doesn't always happen and it's not as easy as we might have wanted it to be in a
Mhm.
sense. So the fact that you mentioned sometimes you still do buy things, it shows the real human part of us in a sense. So yeah,
I
thank you for
mean,
mentioning
yeah, I mean, I've had people that have said to me, "Oh, well, you're, a declutter coach and an organizing expert. Your house must be perfect."
that. Yeah.
I'm like, no, I live with a husband and 2 kids and 4 pets. Like, our house gets messy.
Yeah.
But the difference is that in 5 or 10 minutes, I can pick everything up and put it back where it belongs,
Mhm.
where I have friends who maybe don't have that luxury, and it would take them hours to, like, clean up and put things away. You know what I mean? Like, if I
Yeah.
had a random surprise visitor stop by at any moment, I would never feel embarrassed about how my house looks.
Yeah.
There might be a couple things out that aren't in the right places. Whatever. We live here, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're people. Like, we don't live in a museum where nobody touches anything.
Agreed.
So even though I do help other people declutter and get organized, that doesn't mean that my house is like spick and span tidy like all the time. Like, it's definitely not.
Yeah, yeah. And let's take it back even just a little bit. So you mentioned that as a teenager, you look at pictures and you uh, think of how at that time your room and your walls were cluttered. And now as an adult, you feel you have a better grasp on clutter and on being able to clear the clutter in less time, in about 5 to 10 minutes. Where do you feel like that came into play? Do you feel like there was a pivotal moment for you that led to you becoming more of who you are now?
I mean, my whole decluttering journey really started with the pandemic, because I was working from home for those first 4 months, doing my accounting stuff remotely with a 1 and a 3-year-old at home. And I just happened to notice how many toys we had and how much stuff we had because we were home all day, every day for 4 months together.
Yeah.
And so that's when it really started for me, and I started kind of, like, reading about decluttering and Googling and, listening to some podcasts, and that's when I really started kind of going through our own house and getting pared down in our own house, and then when I went back to work that July, the supply closet at work was a mess, and I was like, "Let me just tidy this up," and then I think my husband felt like we didn't have anything left in the house to declutter because 'cause I'd already gotten rid of so much in those 4 months. So I was like, "Well, maybe I could help other people with this."
Yeah.
So that's how I kinda got started, and I think just hearing about decluttering and reading about I'm not a minimalist, but reading about minimalism and, like,
Yeah.
following some other people's journeys, I feel like I'm heading more towards the minimalist lifestyle. My family might not be following in those footsteps, but, um, eventually, I mean, I love our house is like 2,800 square feet. I keep asking my husband, "Can we downsize?" Even though we upsized when my second son was born. Now I'd love a smaller house. I'd love to get rid of so much of our stuff and live in a smaller house. Um, but I think as an adult now, to answer your question, I think, I just keep the things that really mean something to me and that I appreciate and love and use, and
Yeah.
kind of say goodbye to the things that aren't as important.
Yeah.
So I tell all my clients, you can keep anything, anything. You just
Yeah.
can't keep everything, right? So you
Yeah.
have to make choices. I am a 41-year-old woman. And if you went downstairs and looked in my office right now, you would see 3 different sets of NSYNC dolls. Okay? I'm a huge fan.
Love
Um,
love it.
I will never get rid of them. I love them. In my closet right here, I have a Pee Wee Herman doll and the Cherry doll from the Pee Wee's Playhouse. These are things that mean something to me and that I like, so I choose to keep them. And
Yeah.
things that I don't care about as much, they go. They don't deserve a place in my home. The things that are in my home, I need to love, use, and
Yeah.
actually want to be here.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a good point that you make. And when you're working with other people, like, how do you feel like that usually takes them that same day to make that decision, or does it kind of take them taking a few days to figure it out and have to decide, have to ponder on that thought and then come back to it? What does that tend to look like?
So when I'm working with people in their homes, I teach a 5-step method. I'm certified with a woman named Dana K. White. I'm not sure if you know who she is. So
Yeah.
I am certified under Dana, and I do help with organizing, but I like to focus more on the decluttering aspect. And
Yeah.
I teach people her 5-step method, which guarantees that you will not make a bigger mess in the process if you follow the steps to a T. Okay. So because there's a system of 5 steps when I'm working with people, we just go through the steps together. And like the first step is literally looking for trash. Okay. So, like, if you're in a kitchen, you're just going through and you're taking out anything that is considered trash and you're
Yeah.
throwing it away. If you take a before picture and an after picture in any area of your home, and all you've done is removed the trash, usually
Mhm.
you're going to see a difference just in that picture.
Yeah.
Um, so I teach people her method. We go through the 5 steps together. I tell them right away, you can keep anything, you just can't keep everything. I had a client one time who was in her 70s. She still had her middle school yearbook. I'm not going
Mhm.
to tell her you can't have that. If
Yeah.
that's important to her, then she can keep it, but it has to have a home within her home.
Yeah.
So we go through Dana's process, and part of it is asking yourself the question, if I needed this item, where would I look for it first? So if she needed her middle school yearbook, where should she look for it first, right? If it
Yeah.
was on her bookshelf in her living room, then that's where it needs to live.
Yeah.
Maybe it belongs in a memory bin, right? You can keep whatever you want as long as you have the space for it and you can manage everything
Yes.
in your home easily without feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So it's a process. I mean, like, I work with clients sometimes just one time and we work together for 2 or 3 hours. I teach them the steps, then I leave and I never see them again. And I hope that they continue on without me,
Yeah.
but I don't know because not everybody, follows up with me, or if I reach out to them, I don't always hear back. Some people
Yes.
I work with several times, um, and they just really need the accountability of having someone there to like hold their hand and to
Yeah.
like actually help them to go through the things and make the decisions. Because a lot of times clutter are just delayed decisions,
Yeah.
right? They're just things that you haven't decided what to do with.
Yeah.
And you need someone there maybe to like force you to make the choice of, are we keeping it? Is it going? Is it being donated? Is it trash?
Mhm.
Where is it going to live in my house? And if you follow Dana's 5-step method, you'll
Yeah.
be able to answer all those questions and figure out where something should live within the home, or if it even deserves a place in your home. And sometimes the answer is, I don't actually even realize I have this item and I wouldn't look for it if I needed it. So it can go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. Speaking of focus more on decluttering than on organizing, even your journey and using that 5 step method, how would you say if you had someone come up to you and they're like, well, what's the difference between decluttering and organizing? I thought it was all the same thing. How would you describe that to them?
It is not the same thing at all. I mean, people think that it's the same thing, and if
Yeah.
you think about, like, really what you're doing, decluttering is the act of removing items
Yeah.
from your home and getting them out, right?
Yes.
If you're organizing, you're maybe putting like items with like items. You're making them look pretty. You're putting them in like pretty little bins. Um,
Yes.
there's a little bit of both that goes hand in hand with each other when you're decluttering and organizing, but you can declutter without organizing a thing.
Yeah.
Decluttering is literally just moving the stuff out of your home, getting it out.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that. They just hear decluttering, organizing, they think it's the same thing, and it's not the same at all.
Yeah. I agree. I definitely agree. Thank you for making that distinction. So, when it comes to organizing and even just decluttering overall, what would you say are some of the tips that you personally use and apply to your own life, and that are important to you?
So a big one that, I got from Dana is doing your dishes every day. And it sounds so silly because I feel like most people probably think that they do their dishes every day. Um, but like for me, if I come downstairs and there's dishes in the sink from the night before, my anxiety is like spiking. I'm just
Mhm.
like, I want to see a clear sink when I come down in the morning. So
Yeah.
every night the dishes are either my husband does most of the hand washing, thank you, dear. Um, the dishes are washed the night before, when I come down in the morning, or the dishwasher has been run.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do run my dishwasher every single day, even if it's not completely full. I think that
Mhm.
bothers my husband. He thinks it's a waste. It's really not a waste of anything because I think it's actually more energy efficient to run your
Yeah,
dishwasher than to hand wash
it
um,
is.
a lot of dishes. But anyways, so
Mhm.
doing the dishes every day is like a great way to like get your house to feel more under control. If you don't do dishes for one day, they pile up, and then it's like 10 minutes worth of dishes is probably going to take like 40 minutes worth of dishes like 3 days later because it piles up, right?
Yeah.
So do your dishes every day. This is what I tell people. Run the dishwasher if you need to, or just hand wash them. Do a
Mm.
5-minute pickup every night before bed. Make sure, I mean, the idea is that your house should be decluttered enough that you
Mhm.
can pick up any room or any space in your home in 5 minutes and put everything back where it goes. So
Yeah.
no piles like lounging around. Um, just like a quick 5-minute, like literally put a timer on for 5 minutes, and you should be able to put everything back in that space where it belongs. So every night before I go to bed, just as simple as like folding the throw blanket on the couch. I like to
Yes.
fold that and put it back. All the dog toys that my dog has strewn all over the living room after everybody goes to bed, I put those all back in her little toy bin. Just so in the morning when I come downstairs, everything is like reset to square one. And I feel good about facing the day because I'm not walking into like a cluttered mess. Everything is in its home to start the day. And then you start the day in a much happier mood.
It
Um,
is.
yeah, so I mean, just doing the dishes every day and really just doing a 5-minute pickup before bed just to get everything kind of reset. Those are like my best tips. And also just remembering the rule that you can keep anything. You just can't keep
Yeah.
everything. So you need to decide what is important to you. And if it's your middle school yearbook and you're 95, okay, keep it. If that's
Yes.
important to you, just find a place in your home for it to live. And
Yeah.
then if there's, a set of encyclopedias that nobody touches and no one looks at, and you just don't know what to do with it. This is a real life example because my dad had a set of encyclopedias in his house, and
Yeah.
he tried to donate them, and no one wanted them. Like
Mm.
nobody wanted them. Like nobody looks at encyclopedias anymore. Nobody would
Yes.
take them as a donation. And sometimes you have to do the hard thing and just throw them in the trash. And it's hard, but like your house shouldn't suffer because you don't know what to do with a certain item. You don't know how to dispose of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm giving you permission. Sometimes it's okay to throw away things that are in good shape, that are usable.
Yeah.
You can't donate them and you can't give them away. Sometimes they just have to go in the trash.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. No, thank you for that disclaimer there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, when it comes to just the clutter buster in terms of like your name, where would you say that originated from? What made you choose the clutter buster as your name specifically?
Oh, that's from my dad. He came up with it. He's
Love
he's
it.
very he's very clever. He came up with it. Yeah, I mean, because I focus more on the decluttering aspect more than the organizing aspect, I feel
Yeah.
like it's a perfect name for me, because even though when I'm helping clients, I am sometimes helping them get organized and make things pretty, I'm never going there with the intent of making a Pinterest perfect looking room, right?
Yeah.
We focus on progress, not perfection. So
Yeah.
whenever I'm coming into a client's house, if we've worked for 2 hours and we've gotten out just one bag of trash, we've made progress, right?
Yeah.
The space is better than it was when I arrived. So we're always just going for progress, not perfection. I'm never really going to create like a Pinterest perfect worthy house. We're all people that need to live in our homes, and a lot of us have young children and pets and people who make messes.
Yeah.
And I just want people to feel comfortable in their homes and to not feel overwhelmed and to not feel dread if a random visitor popped by and rang the doorbell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that must be
Yeah.
a horrible feeling to feel like, oh my God, I have to hide. I can't let them in. I can't let them see what I'm living in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, you just you have one place to live, and it's like you need to come home at the end of the day and de-stress,
Yeah.
right? Especially if you're working outside of the home and then you're coming home. You want your home to be a place of like relaxation and enjoyment. You don't want to come home and feel stressed in the one place that's supposed to be stress free for you, right?
Agreed. Agreed.
So I don't know. I really, that kind of was a tangent, but so the clutter buster, I'm really big on helping people to take out the things in their lives that don't matter and that don't make them happy. So that's
Agreed.
why the name the clutter buster is perfect for me. We're busting the clutter, we're getting things out of people's homes. And yes, along the way, we are sometimes making it pretty. But
Yeah.
the number one thing people ask me when they book a session with me is, should I go shopping before and buy bins? Or what
Yeah.
kind of bins should I have ready for you? And I'm like, no, do not buy bins before I come over.
Yeah.
All you need are cardboard boxes and black trash bags. That's all you need. The black trash bags to throw away the stuff that we're throwing away, and so
Mm.
that you can't see through what you have thrown away. Because if you see through like a white trash bag, you might second guess
Yeah.
something that you threw away, right?
Yeah.
Always black trash bags and cardboard boxes that you can use for donations. Anything that you can literally fill with stuff to donate, pick it up, put it in your car and drive it to the donation center and give them the whole box, the whole shebang, just take it, right? You don't want to have to ever go back through something. People will always second guess the decisions
Yeah.
that they've made, always, and they'll be like, oh well, actually I could use that, or oh, I didn't mean to put that in the donation box, let me make sure that I keep that, like
Yeah.
once you make the decision, just have the decision made once,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's all you need. If I'm coming to your house, don't buy pretty bins. 9 times out of 10, when we're going through stuff and we're like paring down all of the items, we end up with like 10 to 15 empty containers anyway that we can then use to make things pretty and to
Yeah.
organize.
Yeah.
So
That
people don't need to
that's
buy
so true.
anything beforehand.
Agreed, agreed. And I will say that I get that question sometimes too, because of course we see on TV and different social media platforms, things like that. And just in life in general, the fact that bins are helpful for us. And of course they are, but in a sense, like you're saying, we can be repurposing other bins after we do the decluttering portion first,
Exactly.
and then be able to use those versus going out spending more money than maybe what you need to spend,
Mhm.
and then getting things on the front end that you may not even need to add to the space. So
Exactly, and a lot of times people have random boxes laying around their home that will work anyways to organize drawers and stuff. Like, if
yeah.
anybody has an iPhone or an iPad and has kept the box, those Apple boxes are super sturdy and they work great as like drawer dividers. Um,
Oh,
you can even use like a shoebox. Like, there's so many things around your house that you can use
yeah.
as an organizing bin. You do not need to go out and buy anything. I mean, yes, if you want to spend the money after you declutter, then you buy the amount of appropriate containers for the stuff you're trying to contain,
Yeah.
right? You declutter first. You cannot organize clutter. So you
Yeah.
always have to declutter first, pare down first, then just keep the things that you really want and love, and then you organize those into pretty bins if you want.
Agreed. Agreed. And even taking it back for a second to when you mentioned just the origination of your name as the Clutter Buster, and how when you are experiencing stress within your home, like how you don't want that to happen. I just wanted to also agree with that point in a sense of like your home should be your happy place, your
Mhm.
humble abode, your place that's serene and peaceful for you in a sense. So
Yeah,
I like that.
it's
Yeah.
like your little bubble in the huge world, right? It's like
Yeah.
your space, and
Agreed.
you
Agreed.
should be happy and comfortable and stress-free in your
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Well, thank you so much for joining in as a podcast guest for our Organizing Untold podcast. I did want to give you the floor and just talk about anything that you may be working on currently, that you may have coming up as it relates to the Clutter Buster and everything that you do around decluttering. Is there anything that you'd like to share?
So I actually just finished teaching a 6-week in-person declutter course,
Yay!
and that was
Congratulations.
lovely. But during tax season wasn't a great time to be committing to anything else. So I finished it last Sunday. I'm looking forward to having the Sunday to myself and my family, and to not have to get up and go teach a course.
I
But
love it.
I'm hoping later in the spring I'm going to start offering some 2-hour virtual courses randomly throughout the week. So like a Thursday night from like 6 to 8 or whatever. Um, and I'll be teaching Dana's 5-step process, and I'll be going over like the basics of her method, and I can answer any questions or whatever. So look for that to be coming out in the spring.
Okay.
Um, and other than that, I mean, as soon as tax season's over, which is like 18 more days, I'm going to open my schedule to be doing more in-person declutter coaching and organizing. So I do offer virtual sessions. I've coached people from all over the country. Um, I can do it, kind of just like this. Just like it's not as fun for me. I like being in person because I
Yeah.
like being hands on. And also, when I'm there in person, I do take a carload full of donations away with me to donate for the client so that they don't have to deal with it. But I do offer virtual if you're not near me. But in person, if you're in Massachusetts or Rhode Island and you want me to come and help you out, I'm available. I love decluttering. I love organizing. I love talking about it. If anybody wants to reach out and just talk about it, send me an email. We can have a phone call, whatever. I mean, I do some videos too on my Instagram and my TikTok, which I'm hoping to kind of ramp up and do a little bit more regularly and more scheduled in the future. Again, once tax season ends and I get a little bit more time to breathe. So look for those. And that's it. I mean, I love to talk about this stuff. I'm very passionate about it. And I love helping other people, any people, but especially moms with young kids that feel frazzled. I'm here to help.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to just share that information for us. And that also reminds me of a point that I wanted to ask you. When it comes to everything in terms of the resources that you have, in terms of podcasts, books, things of that nature, what's one that you feel that you would share with the audience?
Well, I'm gonna have to talk about Dana's podcast because she's my clutter guru. It's called A Slob Comes Clean, and I listen. It comes out every Thursday, and it's the one I look forward to the most. I listen to it every Thursday. I do listen to quite a few other organizing and decluttering podcasts, but A Slob Comes Clean with Dana K. White is my absolute favorite, and I recommend it to everybody. And if you listen to her podcast, you would get a sense of how I work when I go into people's homes because I do teach her 5-step method. So I highly recommend that. She also has a bunch of books. You can go read her books, Organizing for the Rest of Us, Decluttering at the Speed of Life. Pick up a book, an audio book, a physical book, read it, whatever. But she's the best, and her methods really help people and change their lives.
Love it, love it. And then if you had to take one of the decluttering or organizing tips that you implement into your own life and share it with the audience as well, what would you say like one would be? Just one. Just one.
Just one. Okay, I'm going to say try to implement the one in, one out rule.
Yeah.
Anytime you buy something new, if you get a new shirt, go to your closet and find a shirt you don't like as much and donate it. If your kids get a new Lego set, they need to pick an older Lego set to donate to kids that maybe don't have as many Legos. If you practice the one in, one out rule with everything that you buy, your house is never going to be worse off than it is today, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not bringing in more things without letting things go.
Yeah.
So just try to keep that in your head. If you're buying something new, find something that can leave.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure having you. And before we go, I do want to give you the floor again to just share with us what are ways that that people can stay connected to you. What's the best way to get in contact with you if they want to continue following you in your journey going forward?
Sure. So my handle on all social media is at I am the Clutterbuster. My website is iamtheclutterbuster.com. You can send me an email, Allison at iamtheclutterbuster.com. I'm happy to answer questions and to help people out. I'm most active on Instagram and TikTok. I'm trying to grow. I'm kind of old for TikTok and I'm just learning and I'm trying my best over there.
Yeah.
And then I have a Facebook page as well. And, I like to interact with people and to answer whatever questions people have. And I'm here for people if they need me in any way, whether it's just to ask a question or to hire me to come help them in person, or if they just want to secretly watch all my videos and learn some tips and never interact with me, that's fine too. I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
here to help people. So I hope to hear from people.
Yeah. Well, you heard Allison. She gave everything that you need to know in terms of how to stay connected, how to follow her, how to be able to reach out to her, have a conversation. She's looking forward to talking with you, excited to hear from you. So reach out and definitely follow her in her journey going forward as well. Thank you again, Allison. And we'll be talking soon. I appreciate having you on this episode and also this month as we get ready to close out International Women's Month. And I celebrate you as a woman. So
Thank
thank
you. I celebrate you too.
you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Organizing Untold. Again, our guest for today was Allison, and I am glad that we got a chance to just have this episode. It was amazing. It was a good time. So much knowledge to gain from today's episode. So be sure to take some time to listen to this episode, and also if you need to go back to it and re-listen to some of the things that she said so that you can be able to implement it into your own life. Organizing Untold here is specifically for busy business owners and those who work 9 to 5 p.m. to help them become confident with organizing. That is what we are here for. And so glad that I was able to bring on Allison to help further our goal and our mission here at Organizing Untold. So make sure that you follow her. Again, her information will be in the description box, either below or above, depending on where you're watching this episode, and just stay connected with her and her journey going forward. So Organizing Untold is an extension and a segment of Nicely Placed Organizing. And Nicely Placed Organizing is here as a business to organize for first-time home buyers, executives, and full-time artists with art studios and workspaces, helping them to clear the clutter that they have, get out of the house on time, and meet deadlines without any compromises. If you or someone that you know is in one or more of those categories, reach out to us at nicelyplacedorganizing.com and go to the contact tab, fill out that contact form for us, and we'll be glad to reach back out in 1 to 2 days, contact you there, and move forward with the next steps of getting you and your home organized. So thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Organizing Untold. If you have a question about our podcast episodes or about Nicely Placed Organizing or any of our guests, feel free to reach out to us or to them, and we're here to answer your questions and to hear your comments and concerns. So feel free to reach out at any time. And we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.